The evening air is cool and still, the kind of quiet that makes it feel like the world is taking a deep breath. The gas station is small, an old-fashioned place with peeling paint and a single rusty pump. It's the kind of stop that's easy to miss if you're not looking for it, nestled between stretches of barren land and quiet roads. There's a single flickering light above the entrance, casting a pale glow on the cracked pavement. Jack steps out of his truck, his boots making a soft thud as he walks to the pump. His movements are slow, deliberate, like someone who's used to traveling alone, far from the noise of the world. His jacket is old, the leather worn soft from years of use, and his face carries the weight of time, with deep lines around his eyes. His cap, pulled low over his brow, hides most of his short, graying hair. The years of service have left their mark on him, but it's more than just the weight of his past. It's the quiet strength that seems to radiate from him. The kind of strength that only comes from surviving things most people will never understand. As he begins to fill the tank, Jack doesn't seem to notice much around him. His gaze drifts to the horizon, his mind elsewhere. The steady hum of the pump and the faint rustling of the wind are the only sounds, breaking the silence. The gas station feels like an island in time, far removed from the chaos of the world. Jack, in this moment, is just another traveler passing through, another man alone in a world that has long since moved on. As Jack continues to fill his truck, his attention is pulled to the distant corner of the station, where a group of young men are standing by an old rusted sedan. They're laughing loudly, their voices carrying across the empty lot, filling the quiet with a sense of carelessness. They look to be in their 20s, dressed in casual clothes, hoodies, baseball caps, and jeans. They seem harmless enough at first glance, just a few guys enjoying their night. But as Jack adjusts the nozzle in his truck's tank, their conversation drifts towards something darker. One of the men, a lanky guy with a scruffy beard and wide grin, mentions a recent string of robberies in the nearby town. Jack doesn't catch every word, but the bits he hears are enough to catch his interest. His eyes narrow slightly as he listens, trying to piece together what they're saying. "Man, that last one, it was a rush," says one of the men. "Those little mom-and-pop shops didn't know what hit 'em. Easy pickings." Another man, with a deep voice, laughs. "Yeah, they barely even put up a fight. Too scared to call the cops." The words hit Jack like a cold gust of wind. He keeps his gaze down, trying not to show that he's listening, but his pulse quickens. They talk about how they've been hitting small businesses, places that won't fight back, places where people don't expect trouble. They're not just stealing cash, they're taking something more. It doesn't take long for Jake, the one with the cocky attitude, to start boasting. "I've got a plan for the next one. It's gonna be big, bigger than all the others," he says, a wild glint in his eyes. "We're gonna hit something with real money this time, but we'll need to be careful. I'm thinking it's gotta be fast, no mess." The other men murmur in agreement, clearly thrilled by the idea of pushing things further. Jack's grip tightens on the pump handle as the words sink in. These aren't just a group of reckless kids looking for some fun. These are criminals. Dangerous ones, and they don't care who they hurt. His military instincts kick in, his mind immediately processing the information. A robbery spree, escalating plans, and a group of men that clearly don't know the consequences of their actions. Jack feels the familiar weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. He's not one to get involved in the problems of strangers, but this was different. Jack stands by his truck, his hand still gripping the gas nozzle, though the tank is already full. The words of the young men echo in his mind, their laughter now twisted with the threat of violence. For a moment, he feels paralyzed. He never asked for this, never wanted to be caught up in something that might put him in harm's way. After all, he left that life behind years ago. The memories of his time in the military are like a distant echo, a chapter he's tried to forget. He feels the weight of that decision now. Should he step in, or should he keep to himself and continue on his journey, away from the trouble brewing around him? Part of him wants to walk away. The road's open. There's nothing stopping him from getting back in his truck and driving away from all of this. But something holds him in place. The conversation about the small businesses, vulnerable, defenseless people, stirs something deep inside him. Jack knows that feeling. He's been there before. The helplessness, the fear, the sense of not being able to do anything when the world feels like it's closing in around you. It's what drove him to serve in the first place, to fight for people who couldn't defend themselves. His mind races as the silence of the station presses in on him. He doesn't want to be a hero. He's not looking for praise or attention. But he also knows what happens when no one steps up. These men might just be playing at something they think is exciting, but it's real to the people they hurt. They might not even realize the damage they're causing. After a few long moments, Jack's decision is made. He walks briskly over to the payphone, the cold metal of the booth feeling more like a lifeline than a nuisance. He dials the number for the local sheriff's office, his heart beating faster with every ring. When the voice on the other end answers, Jack's voice is steady, but his words carry the urgency of someone who knows what's at stake. "I think you need to send someone down here. There's trouble brewing at the gas station. A group of guys, they're planning something. Robberies. The kind of thing you don't want happening in a small town." He hangs up quickly, not waiting for a response. His eyes flicker toward the young men, still gathered around their car, completely unaware of the action he's just set into motion. Jack stays close to his truck, pretending to check the oil, but he never takes his eyes off them. His gut tells him things are about to get a lot worse before they get better. Jack hangs up the phone, the weight of his decisions still settling on him. His heart is pounding in his chest as he scans the parking lot, his mind already a step ahead, preparing for the possibility of a confrontation. The sheriff's office has been alerted, but he knows it could take time for them to arrive, and the situation could escalate long before that. As he closes the phone booth door and turns toward his truck, he notices the group of young men shifting in the corner of his eye. They're no longer laughing and joking. Instead, they've huddled together, their body language tense, their voices low. The carefree energy they had moments ago has vanished, replaced by a quiet alertness. Jack feels his stomach tighten. He's no longer just an observer. His presence has drawn attention, and now he's a target. His instincts, honed over years of training, scream at him to leave, to get in his truck and drive away. But it's too late for that now. They've already noticed him, and he's caught in the web of something much bigger than just a bad situation at a gas station. Jake, the one with the cocky grin, takes a few steps away from the group. His eyes are fixed on Jack, sharp and calculating, and Jack feels a shiver run down his spine. The young man moves with purpose, his footsteps slow, deliberate. There's no mistaking it now. He's coming for Jack. Jack's mind races, but he keeps his composure. He forces himself to stay calm, his hands steady as he begins to close the hood of his truck. He knows what's coming, but he won't give them the satisfaction of seeing him flinch. "Nice truck," Jake says, his tone casual, as if they're just two strangers talking about cars. "She run well?" Jack doesn't want to engage, doesn't want to get drawn into anything that could give away his awareness, but he has no choice but to answer. "Yeah, she's got some miles on her, but she does the job." Jake takes another step forward, his smile stretching slightly, but there's something off about it now. It's too wide, too fake. Jack knows exactly what this is. A diversion. Jake isn't actually interested in his truck. He's testing the waters, trying to gauge if Jack knows something he shouldn't, if he knows what they're up to. "You come through here often?" Jake continues, his voice light but with a sharp edge to it. "Seems like a good place to stop for a bit of rest, huh?" Jack doesn't bite. "I was just passing through, filling up, getting back on the road." It's a simple answer, neutral, and Jack hopes it's enough to throw Jake off. But the tension is building, thick and palpable in the air. Jack can feel the danger creeping closer. A sense of dread that tightens around his chest. These young men are unpredictable, and he knows that one wrong move could set them off. Jake doesn't seem satisfied with Jack's response, but for now, he doesn't push. Instead, he glances back at the group, his eyes flickering with a mix of suspicion and irritation. Jack takes the moment to glance over his shoulder, his mind calculating his next move. The group is still huddled together, speaking in whispers. They don't seem to be planning to leave anytime soon. Jack's heart beats a little faster as he realizes that the situation is about to spiral out of control. He's not sure what they'll do next, but he's certain it's going to happen soon. His gut tells him he has to get out. But a part of him holds firm. He won't run, not yet. He's been in tighter spots before, and he's not about to show fear now. Not when these men are so close to doing something terrible. He lets out a quiet breath, keeping his movements slow and deliberate as he checks the oil again. Eyes never straying too far from the group. The game has changed, and Jack knows that if he's not careful, it could get dangerous very quickly. Jack's fingers hover over the truck's keys, ready to start the engine and get out of there. But just as he's about to slip into the driver's seat, he sees movement in his peripheral vision. One of the young men, the one with the wild eyes, is walking toward him, slowly, purposefully. His posture is tense, his hands shoved deep into his pockets. Jack doesn't need to guess what's coming next. This guy is no longer interested in small talk. He's about to make his move. The man approaches Jack's truck, his eyes darting to the side, as though considering whether to vandalize it or worse. Jack doesn't flinch. He stands his ground, his military training kicking in, his stance widening and firming up. He knows the slightest hesitation could turn this into something more dangerous. With every inch the man closes, Jack's heart rate steadies. He's ready. The young man stops just a few feet from Jack's truck, his eyes locked on Jack's. For a moment, there's only the quiet hum of the evening air and the pounding in Jack's chest. The man grins, a cocky, almost mocking expression that Jack sees right through. Jack takes a step forward, his voice calm but edged with authority. "You don't want to do this," Jack says, his voice steady but firm. "Back off now, before this gets ugly." The man's grin falters, but he doesn't move. Instead, he looks over his shoulder to the others, who are now watching closely, waiting to see what he does next. Jack can feel their eyes on him, waiting for him to break, waiting for him to show weakness. "I don't think you understand," the young man mutters, his tone low, threatening. "We don't take kindly to people who get in our way." Jack meets his gaze, unwavering. "You're making a mistake, and I'm not afraid of you." The words are simple, but they carry weight. He doesn't need to explain himself further. His body language speaks volumes. He's been through worse. These kids might be loud, but they don't scare him, not one bit. The young man steps back, his eyes narrowing as if sizing Jack up. He hesitates, unsure of how to proceed. It's as if the air between them is thick with tension, and neither one wants to break first. Jack can feel the threat lingering, the potential for things to spiral out of control hanging in the air. But he's made his point. He's not going to back down. Suddenly, the wail of sirens cuts through the night air. The young man's head jerks toward the sound, and Jack's eyes flicker toward the entrance of the gas station. The sheriff's deputies have arrived, just in time. Jack's tip-off has worked. The young men freeze for a split second, their carefree arrogance shattering in an instant. Some of them look toward the exit, calculating their chances of running. But they've already been caught off guard, and the panic starts to set in. Jake, the leader, looks like he's about to bolt, but before he can make a move, the deputies are on them. The situation flips from one of quiet tension to full-blown chaos. The deputies move swiftly, their hands grabbing hold of the young men, slapping on cuffs with practiced ease. The guys who had been so smug just moments before are now scrambling, trying to break free. But it's too late. Their fate has already been sealed. Jack stands back, his eyes following the deputies as they corral the young men into a line. The adrenaline still hums in his veins, but there's a strange sense of relief washing over him. The danger is over. For now. Jake tries to speak, his voice rising in frustration, but one of the deputies silences him with a sharp command, and the young man's defiance crumbles. He's going nowhere. As Jack watches the young men being loaded into the back of the patrol car, a quiet sense of satisfaction settles over him. It wasn't about heroism, it wasn't about proving something. He simply did what he had to do. He stood his ground when it mattered. The town is safe, at least for now. But as the patrol car pulls away, Jack feels the weight of it all pressing down on him again. This wasn't a victory. It was a moment, one fleeting moment in the long string of days that seemed to stretch on without end. He did what needed to be done, but deep inside, he knows it doesn't change the bigger picture. The world is full of threats, big and small. And Jack? He'll keep facing them, one by one, no matter how hard it gets. For now, though, he climbs into his truck, starting the engine with a quiet hum, and pulls away from the station. It's another quiet night, another lonely stretch of road. But Jack knows, deep down, that he's still doing what he's always done, trying to make the world a little bit safer, one action at a time. The sheriff approaches Jack as he's preparing to leave. His uniform is crisp, his expression appreciative but professional. He offers a firm handshake, his words sincere but brief. "Thank you for your timely call. You really helped us out here tonight." Jack nods, but there's no smile on his face. He's not looking for thanks, not from the sheriff, and not from anyone. The gesture feels hollow to him, almost like an obligation, a polite acknowledgement of a job done. But for Jack, this wasn't about recognition. It was never about that. It was about doing what needed to be done, even if it meant putting himself at risk. He wasn't a hero. Heroes get medals, they get praise, they get remembered. Jack didn't need any of that. He didn't want it. He was just a man who couldn't sit idly by while others suffered. His military days had taught him that much. If you see something that's wrong, you act. No questions asked. The sheriff's words fade as Jack starts his truck. The engine rumbles to life, and he pulls out of the gas station lot. The weight of the night lifts a little, but the quiet that follows feels heavy in its own way. Jack's mind isn't focused on the road ahead. It's occupied with the moments that just passed, the tension, the decision to step in. As the headlights cut through the darkness, Jack reflects on his past, the days when he wore a uniform and followed orders, when the world was simpler in some ways. His time in the military had taught him a lot, but it also left him with scars, some physical, most emotional. The things he had seen, the things he had done, had never quite left him. In many ways, Jack had been running from those memories ever since he left the service. He tried to bury them, tried to outrun them with each mile. But no matter how far he went, no matter how many different roads he traveled, the past always found its way back. And tonight, it had caught up with him again, though not in the way he expected. The decision to step in had come easily enough. His military training, his sense of duty, kicked in without hesitation. But it wasn't just about that. The truth was, Jack couldn't stand by and let those young men hurt innocent people. He couldn't stand the thought of people feeling powerless, of their lives disrupted by selfish, thoughtless actions. He'd been there himself once, feeling small, feeling like the world was closing in. And he knew what it was like to have someone stand up for you, to give you a sense of security when all seemed lost. As the miles tick by, the silence between Jack and the road stretches on, but it's not an uncomfortable silence. It's a reflective one, a quiet moment of peace in the midst of a life that's often anything but peaceful. He may never go back to being the man he was before his service. The man who had dreams, hopes, and a sense of certainty about his place in the world. That man was gone, buried beneath years of experience and loss. But tonight, Jack had done something. He'd made a difference, even if it was for one night. And as the evening settles back into its quiet rhythm, Jack drives on, not entirely sure where he's headed next, but for the first time in a long while, feeling like maybe, just maybe, he was headed in the right direction. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more emotional and gripping tales. We love hearing your thoughts, so leave a comment below and let us know what you think or share your own experiences. And if you think someone else would enjoy this story, make sure to share it with them. Your support means the world to us. Until next time, take care and stay safe.